Hello, my name is Ron Venter. I'm with the University of Toronto. I'd like to share with you some of our ideas about the new building going up, the Centre for Engineering Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Hope you enjoy it. My name is Ron Venter, and it's a great pleasure to be here this afternoon and to share thoughts with you. This table here.
I told you he had fans.
We're
turning a problem set.
We had a good time together. I was chair of mechanical engineering from 81 to 91, and obviously started teaching before then in the department, and it's still the department that's most near and dear to my own heart. So it's great to see you guys here and all doing very well, and thank you for coming. A bit about myself. Thanks, Laurie, for your introductions. I just want to be sure that when you're all here, somebody said to me earlier, I came to the last talk and it was a great talk, but I couldn't hear too much. So if I'm talking too soft, just wave your hand and just say, hey, speak a bit louder or speak a bit clearer. I can't change the accent. It's a South African accent. It sounds English. I'm often mistaken for English, and in the days of apartheid in South Africa, people never wanted to say, oh, you're South African, and then I was German or possibly Australian. But it's good to be from South Africa, and it's great to be a 50-year-old Canadian, I suppose, since I've been here 50 years, so it's pretty good. Look, a bit about myself. I'm a mechanical engineer, and I'm currently working on a number of projects, and the one that Christina Amon persuaded me to help with, and we worked on this since 1906, since 2006, to actually plan what we needed and what we wanted. And with any major project, there's a lot of stop and go and bad starts, and I think the faculty is near and dear to your hearts, of all of you, so it's good I can be very honest and open about all the headaches that we had along the way, and how we came to build what is known as the CEIE, which is now under construction and hopefully will be opened in the latter part of next year or early 2018. That's the sort of frame we're looking at. When you're trying to put a new building, we did a space analysis in the faculty, and it may surprise you, but the faculty's space envelope is about 65,000 net assignable square meters. That's an awful lot of real estate. You may also know that the University of Toronto's got a new budget model that's now about 10 years old, whereby departments and faculties are charged for the space they use. And every square meter that we have will cost the faculty approximately $300 a year to maintain. And Christina has to find that out of her budget every year. So you can begin to add up what the price we pay to maintain engineering space. So there are good things and bad things about this policy, in that it makes people much more aware to use their space well. And that's a good thing, because often good, expensive labs are built, sorry, the battery's running low. Thank you. We better plug it in somewhere. Thank you. Thank you for noticing that, Jean. I knew you were telling me something. You okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. So when you're building a space, you've got to worry about it being good space, because you're going to have to pay to maintain it. But also you've got to worry about the cost of the space to build. And if you're building space in downtown Toronto now, for every square meter that you build, that's net assignable square meter, that's the usable space, excluding the passageways, corridors, washrooms, those sort of things, you'd be paying, as we are for this building, of the order of $16,000 per net assignable square meter, which is very, very expensive. So you look at a prof's office, it's 12 square meters, and 12 times 16, you can see it's over $100,000 to build that office. And so people have got to use their space well. And if a prof is away on sabbatical, it's important that the office be used by students or somebody else. So we try and build flexibility wherever we can. This is the view of the completed CEIE building. It's a view taken from Russell Street, and the building on the left is obviously the CEIE. The smaller building on the right of that is the Forestry Building. And many of you, I'm sure many of you do know, because of where you are and when you graduated, that Forestry Building was on the site of the Galbraith Building, and it was picked up in 1960 and moved a few yards north. I had wished they had moved it further north. You would have had a better site for the current building, but it's an historic building and cannot be changed. What I'm going to do with today is just sort of share with you the whole story about the CIE and what we're doing in there. That's an aerial view of the campus, and there you see that green area is the site. And you can see the Forestry Building on the right-hand side, and a few cars there. There were 96 cars on this parking spot, and it's the last ground-level parking spot on the U of T campus, which we managed to get from university. And the condition was they would give it to engineering for a building, provided we could raise the money to have a shovel in the ground within 5 years. That 5 years ends next year, and we've got a shovel in the ground, so we're fairly safe. Okay. Anyway, that's the site. And what I wanted to share with you is this is just an illustrative diagram. These are little silos, and they could be the silos of the Wahlberg on the extreme right, but they're all our buildings. They're about 16 to 18, depending how you count. And I've chosen just to put the CIE in the middle, because it is going to be a center hub of the faculty by its very nature of what we're trying to do. Today we cannot go and build new energy labs easily in the new CIE, but we've got labs, energy labs in all our other buildings, and we've got to find a way to bring them together and to collaborate. And so this just simply shows that the idea would be to build the CIE and to have all these other buildings be integrated with it in some way. And I'll explain a bit more as we go ahead with it. The key things are those 3 points at the top. We did a space audit in 2009 to find out what space we needed, and we certainly needed some additional space. We decided, in long discussion with Christina, that we would build, or had to build, a non-wet lab building. And that means we're not going to build a building with big fume hoods or heavy chemical sort of activities, because the price just gets another third additional cost. And we would rather work out some scheme where we built a dry building and then traded space back with the center, so that the classrooms that we would build in our new building would be run by ACE, what is now called ACE, the Office of Space Management, and we'd get them to release existing classrooms that needed renovation in the Galbraith or Wahlberg or wherever else, that we convert those spaces into additional wet labs closer to where the labs were. And that's the model that we've worked with. And I'm happy to share numbers about, we will be building in this building something like 1,800 NASMs, net assignable square meters of teaching space, at least. That's a minimum. And so we try to work with the university to use that space effectively for teaching in engineering, but everywhere else, but then to gain about 1,800 NASMs of space in other buildings that we could use for new labs and develop that capability. The target of this building, the items in red there, the building is, we wanted to target innovation and interactive teaching. And you may say, why did we do that? All of us were students at one time or another, and in my mind, this building is one of the best things we have done for our students since school began and the Little Red Schoolhouse came along. This will be a dynamite building for our students. It will have a 500-seat auditorium, which is going to be a world-leading interactive auditorium, where the seats are on 7 levels as you go down, but instead of the seats being seated like if you're in Roy Thompson Hall, there will be a table on each of these levels, a number of tables with 4 or 6 chairs around, so students will work in groups. And there will be a facilitator or a lecturer in the front that will interact. Each student group at a table will have access to the internet, that if they are exploring, looking for, let's say, vibration studies and watching San Francisco Bridge collapse in the earthquake of 1906 or whatever, they may find it, and then it should be able to be projected from them onto a large stadium screen that's going to be about 18 meters by 4 meters in the front with multi-panels on it. So it's, to give you an idea of the cost of this screen, the screen alone is running at about $3 million to get this screen in place. Okay? So there's a lot of technology, the interconnection with the tables and all that, but it's a dynamite facility. There's also what we call teal rooms and design meet rooms, and these in many ways are some of the best approaches we can find that have been used in leading universities like MIT and Stanford, where students work in groups and they do design projects or any projects, they work in groups around a small table. There might be a fabrication facility across the corridor that you can go and drill a few holes or solder a few wires and come back and interact. And that's what we're trying to do with each of these rooms. Now we've got approximately 8 teal rooms and 8 design meet rooms. And I'll explain a bit more about them. But just think of that as an educational capability. We then want people presence. We want the alumni to feel that this is their home as well, and this is where you go to if you come to campus. You'll find Sonia's office is going to be there on the 6th floor, and there'll be spaces that you could sit down and have a cup of tea if you'd like to, or have a little computer that you can sit and do a bit of work, and then go and visit Sonia when she's got a few minutes spare, and just interact with our students that are working throughout the buildings, because a lot of us of our alumni work in industry, and they're helping us with projects in all the different levels, and we'd like them to feel at home when they come to their places they can meet and interact with the students. We want to push innovation, and the faculty has moved quite aggressively to establish the hatchery. Mr. Heffernan, who many of you know from MSc, has donated considerable amount of funding to help the hatchery be established. And we are finding a lot of our students, be they in 2nd, 3rd or 4th year, are working on projects that are leading to spin-off capabilities, and we want to make sure they can nurture them in these places. And if there are little project rooms that we have down the corridor, they could actually be assigned a project room for a while they nurture this project. Clearly we want some research activity in this building. But instead of having heavy labs, we want to sort of pool the administrative hub of this research activity. So to give you an example, we have an Institute of Sustainable Energy. There are hydrogen labs in the Holtain building. There are labs in the Chemical Engineering building, in electrical. And we want the hub to be in the center with a few grad students that are maybe doing theoretical studies, but that they can link easily with the other labs in the other, let's say, 8 buildings that activity goes on. We are going to establish in this building 10 major research nerve centers. One is the IAC, the other you might know is the Doug Reeves R-LEAD program. The Yuling Chen has developed the Center for Global Engineering, doing a lot of toilet developments with Bangladesh and supported by good international funding. The hatchery is another one. A water institute is another one that's got a lot of support from Asia. So there's a lot of these 10 of these things that are going to be occupying the top 5 floors. And I'll show you in a minute the layout of the building. The bottom few points there, we want an energy efficient building. We could have built a glass box on this site. Appreciate this site is a very, very difficult site for architects. And I was just talking to my friend over there a minute about this. You've got a building that's got to be positioned next to Knox College. It's got an interface with Simcoe Hall on the other side. It's got Galbraith, which I still think is a very attractive building, but it's a 60s building. And it's we want it to be a 100-year building design. We want it to be energy efficient, so we don't build a glass box. We want some heavy walls, but we want to harvest the sunlight that comes in. And I'll show you in a minute how we've tried to pull these things together. The architectural firm is Montgomery Sison Architects. They're on Spadina Avenue. This is just very brief. This idea, all these things on the left here, sort of give you an idea of some of the activities that we're going to pull into this building. And these are all the things we're trying to make sure this building will have. We'll have energy efficiency, study space, design, networking, group study activities, social innovations, very important these days. And the best way I can describe this building is that while we have very strong departments at U of T, no department is technically being assigned space in this building. To be in this building, you've got to have a collaborative capability. You've got to pull all of us together to be in there. And I think this is a wonderful initiative that Christina Amon has nurtured and pushed, because it is important. And you know, everything we do in this building, we could have a center going in there, one of these nerve centers, and it might fail in 3 years. Well, then it's time to move on. We bring in the next one. And so we're trying to build this whole building so it can be flexible. And that has led to many decisions, like the upper floors will have false floors, plugs in the floor so we can move walls around as best we can, and of course some flexibility I'm going to bypass that one quickly. That's going back to the site that you saw before. And this is just an illustration from March 2015, which is now 18 months ago, when the house that was on the site there was being demolished. And just a good picture. It's sad to see buildings go down, but this building, we dug deep and hard with the city to find if there was any architectural value to the city. It was built, a number of years back, obviously, when there were a lot of grand homes on St. George, but there was nothing special about this building, so we got approval to demolish it on the condition, obviously, we protected this Forestry Building. I'll share with you as well that Simcoe Hall, as you know, is a grand old building, but on the northwest corner, there's a staircase. It's an ugly staircase. It was put up there in 1978 or something, and it was required to exit people out of governing council chamber at the time if there was a fire. You needed an exit, because there are more than 60 people in the hall. Okay. We've managed to, everyone's inside now, to actually agree that awkward-looking stairwell will be demolished. That'll come down in about 6 months. And the exit from Simcoe Hall, from the Governing Council chamber now, will link through an overhead bridge into the staircase of our building as the exit. And that just gives you a much nicer passageway of garden between our building and Simcoe Hall, and between our building and Knox College. That's the site a few months later. This is about a year later. It's actually, let's say it's June of this year, where the hole has been dug. We've run into a few problems with all sites of U of T campus, not strictly because of Tattle Creek, but there's a lot of little rivulets that flow into Tattle Creek. And we knew, we had people come in and do evaluations, ground testing. We knew there'd be water on the site. It's my own view that the contractors didn't read our reports as well as they might have, and thought they'd find a quick way around putting these 125 caissons down in spite of the water. And they weren't pumping out water fast enough to be able to do that job, and it's caused them a bit of a delay. They're now rectifying that and playing catch-up. That's a typical view of what it would look like. It will change a little bit between that view and what you finally see, but not too far different. I should just share with you at this time that when you have plans at U of T for a building, you've got to take it to a design review committee to review to see that it fits in with the general plans of the university. And one of the concerns that was expressed by the Design Review Committee was the importance to see Simcoe Hall's dome from Russell Street. Now Russell Street is the street just immediately north of the Bain Centre. And if you walk along that street, you can actually see this dome, the dome of St. Hall. And we had a design that sort of was an L shape. And as a result, you couldn't quite see that dome as well as they would like. So we had to change the design so that our building changed from being a bit of an L that was 7 floors high to a cube that is now 8 floors high. And our concern, we've got to get approval from the city, is that as the building goes up, the view changes from King's College Circle. And so you see a bit more of a big high building coming up behind St. Hall. But we've finally got all that approved, and the city's finally approved it. This is an important illustration that I just think shares a great deal about what this building is. If you just think of a cross-section through the building, and this is the ground level over here, and on the ground level, these first 2 floors, these are 2 floors high, that sloped area is the auditorium, the 500-seat auditorium. That auditorium is that large that it really consumes the first 2 floors. Okay, so you've got a lobby that will be a nice, gracious lobby, and I'll show you some pictures of that. But you've got this lovely big auditorium in there. On these 2 floors above, they will house what we call the teal rooms and the design meet rooms. So all these levels from right here to there, those first 4 floors are all strictly student learning capability activities for students. On the lower level, we've got one level of parking underneath, and the floor just below the ground level, which you call the lower level, and on the elevators we've now decided will be called 0. Okay, so it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, and 0 is quite fun, I think, to have it as 0. But the thing that's most exciting about this building, in my view, is the lower level, this ground 0, will house a student club activity. It'll house an arena. And think of an arena that's about the size of this room, where there are sort of, round the sides here, there may be doors that pull up, and students can actually store goods. A project like a high mileage vehicle could be stored in there, and then they can come out and work in a quad of this open area, and then when they finish working at 3 in the morning, they can push the stuff back into the thing. And we did a lot of work with the NSOC to make sure we understood when they would use the facility, how it would be used. And so in addition just to this arena where the work area and the storage things are around, there are computer shops there, a computer place they can go play with computers. We also have a visualization capability. And because we have about 100 student clubs, it may surprise you that as many as 12 of them are very music focused. There's a lot of music activity. Some of you may remember Isabel Baragdarian as one individual who was an Sci grad in 2002, I think, who's a major soprano these days. And anyway, we've got a music room down there that's an isolated room that students can actually practice quartets or doing anything in there. And we could occasionally use that room for some experimentation if we needed. It's an isolation. So there's a lot of good fun things that are going on in that ground level. When you get to this floor over here, this is the 5th floor. And from the 5th floor up to the ceiling, that's floors 5, 6, 7, and 8, the building changes its character and it becomes a revealed atrium building. That the centerpiece of the building is open and it's got light flowing in. So you've got a wonderful, this floor over here, this 5th floor, is a lovely sort of open area. It's an atrium where students will have study space. You can use it as a major function for an event like this if we chose to. And around the 4 sides you would see offices and these nerve centers. And since Sonia's here, she will be on the 6th floor. Okay. On that ground floor, as well, on the 5th floor, we'll also have some of the few labs in the building, one being a double height robotics lab. where we hope it's a double floor. So we hope that you'll be able to see robots and drones flying around in there. And if you're in that lobby area on the 5th floor, that will entertain you as well. And there's nice student study space that overlooks St. George Street. That's all quite exciting for our students. That's just a cross-section again of the same thing, which gives you some idea of what you'll see. You see, if you're looking along Russell Street, you see the dome now, which is important. You see the classroom, you see the lobby, and you can get into this lecture theatre from the top here. There'll be sort of a waiting area here. It's a great location to think of a conference going on, that you could house a major conference with plenary sessions on the ground floor, and then use these 2 floors as well for a summer conference, for breakout sessions. That just gives you a graphical layout of the floor plan. There's the Forestry Building. That's the building that we're putting together. That's Knox College, and this is Simcoe Hall. This is just giving you a little bit more detail than maybe you'd like, but it's a floor plan taken from the 2nd floor, which shows the whole auditorium in place. And if you count the number of levels, you'll see there's 7 different tiered levels. These little blobs that you see here are the tables I referred to, where 4 students would actually sit side by side, and there would be a big screen over there. A lot of debate about how did the students turn and look at the screen. There's a lot of discussion that goes on about this. But we've designed everything that if all this fails, then maybe in a few years, 10 years, we would take out all these tables and make it into a traditional theatre again, if you wanted to. But I don't think that will happen. But I'm being honest with you, for a professor to teach in these classrooms, you can begin to understand you're going to have to change the way you teach. It's not... today you can go, and if you're teaching a first-year course, you can buy courses from Stanford or MIT online. And professors could actually tell you that you pay $25, you can pick up the same course at Stanford. You can go home and look at that. So when you come to the lecture, you don't want to teach the same stuff. You want to show how it finds its way into real life. And you'll know from SPA, you can show something about the robot arm moving and stuff like that on the web, and you can talk about the issues rather than just learning what an eigenvalue is and all those sort of things. It helps a great deal. That's an illustration of the theatre. We hope that the front, not we hope, we have planned that you could bring an automobile into the front of the room. They put a small smart car there, but it's got to be a bit bigger than that, okay? But you should be able to bring the car in, and quite often you might want to rent out this facility on a weekend to General Motors, or somebody wants to launch a new product, and it should be used for that. You'll notice in this sketch that the tables that you see here are more traditional, meaning you sit around the table, and the idea here was that you put a person there and a person there. We've turned the table around through 90 degrees, so it's longer this way, the screen is there, so that the students are facing each other, but they turn sideways when there's something to see on the screen. Okay. Here's you another illustration. The picture on the front there is to give you some idea about the height and where you'll be in relation to students. It's important you see the individual walking. The facilitator needs to walk and have access along the corridors. It mustn't be sort of that you're battling to get there. There's got to be enough space to walk down these aisles and actually help them looking forward or back. I've gone to this slide. This is the floor plan now of the 3rd or 4th floor. And these rooms, that little area you see bounded in red there, that would be a typical teal room. These teal rooms, I'll show you what it looks like in a moment, but think of a room that's 9 meters by 12 meters, we convert to feet if it's, I think you're all okay with meters, so okay for now. But what you'll notice about these rooms, that this is a big room that could seat 72 students quite easily. But we've also got a wall that comes down in the middle, so you can isolate it into two smaller rooms if you need to. And it's just to try and get maximum usage of all the space we have. This is a mock-up of a teal room. For those of you that get to the campus occasionally, this is in the Galbraith building. We took one of the rooms there at about the same size, and we put these teal rooms in. And what it really is just two tables. They're both hexagonal sort of shape, sort of an trapezoidal shape. You bring them together, they create a hexagonal piece. You can pull them apart. And you have these high stools around it, so students can actually work as a group. But you notice around the room there are LCDs that if you have anything or the lecture's talking, that comes on all the screens. So wherever you sit in the room, there will be a screen very near you. I mean, if I'm giving this presentation, we'd have a screen over here and you all would be looking in a different direction because that would facilitate the operation. And the reason we did this is to actually test drive this thing a little bit and make sure profs can start using it and see how their mode of education or teaching changes. I'm flipping now to a design meet room, and this is an artist's illustration of, again, a very similar room to what I showed you, but instead of having the tables scattered around the room, here we've put the tables together, as you see, and you've got a small group here where 6 students can sit together with a screen right next to them, and these students will work in this room and then run over across the corridor to actually fabricate anything they may want to design. These tables in here will be a butcher block surface, so they're writing surfaces, but they're also a bit of a workbench. And we're making them that way so that every 2 years you can skim them off and polish them a bit, and they'll be back as new. Again, in this room there are unique features. Often students are set up in this room with 36, let's say 6 students in a group of 6, and you want them to be visually isolated from each other. Think of them doing the same. Let's say they're dismantling a coffee making machine, and there's exam questions around this coffee making machine. You want to isolate them, so these panels that you see here enable each of the tables to be separated by a hanging wall that you can move into place. Couldn't get quite agreement, so half the rooms have the wall and half don't have the wall. It's the Canadian compromise. I chose to show you this one because I think this has got a nice feel to it. This is the ground floor, not the ground floor, the 5th floor of the revealed atrium. And this could be a wonderful area where you can have an open function with cheese and wine and what have you. Bear in mind, this is 4 floors high, the light comes in from the top. This is open over here, this big green blob is student study space. So the event you're having can spill right over into this area, and you're looking over St. George Street, because this is St. George Street over here. This will be another student study space that will be glassed in, so it's a little bit less noisy. That students can use. This is a design center. This is a robotics lab, and that dotted red thing is the double height zone. So if you're standing in here, you could see whatever's going on in that lab. This will be a big double height glass wall. You're able to look up and see the whole activity. Throughout this building, we've purposely taken out all the meeting rooms that could be associated with any entity. Like if there's the ESI, Institute for Sustainable Energy, they would not have a meeting room in their suite. The meeting rooms are scattered throughout the building. There's as many as 15 meeting rooms. And the idea would be that anyone, including students, can use these meeting rooms. You may say, how do they book them? We're going to make it so that you can take your cell phone and beam on the door, and if it's free, you can book it, okay, and use it. And there are 15 of these, and a lot of students would welcome this, and it just means our 15 meeting rooms are going to be well used. This gives you a feel of that same revealed atrium on the floor that I was just talking about. And you see the stairs, you look up, you'll see the 5th, 6th, 7th floor. You've got light coming in through the bottom. The nature of the building is a lot of concrete and wood, Douglas fir. So it's going to have, we're trying to get the concrete as white as we can, but you can't get it perfectly white. We're trying to get sharp corners on the concrete as well, so it has a nice clean line. But it's, think of glass, concrete, and wood. Okay, is where we're trying to get to. That's just a view of what it would look outside. This is the passageway between the east side of our building and Simcoe Hall. So you can see an interesting look, much like Nona MacDonald walkway is at the moment. That's what it would look like. That's a view of the building now from King's College Circle. The good thing about the building is that it blocks that smokestack. That's on Russell. My own view is when you look at the building very carefully, you start picking up the way the window patterns are, and Knox College's windows at night look very similar. I may be pushing it a bit far, but you'll see what I mean when you see it one day soon. And I've got a few pictures here that just, the picture on the left sort of again shows the revealed atrium. And you can see the concrete and the wood sort of coming together. It's got a very clean look to it, we hope. And this big blob that you see on the right-hand side is the underside of the lecture theatre. So when you come into the lobby, you'll see the bottom of the lecture theatre going up, and it has that sort of look to it. Okay. That's again just another shot of the 5th floor atrium, just to give you a feel of what it would look like. I see it as a sort of interesting blend of the old buildings around there, and yet it's modern. Okay, and that's what we're hoping, the architects are hoping to capture. And that's the building now when it's finally in place. And I do want to add a few things a little bit about where we are. As I said earlier, we're hoping that the building will be finished in early 2018. It might be a little bit earlier, but my guess is the formal opening will be in the spring of 2018. We are very grateful, and I'm talking on behalf of Christina Amon as well, in trying to put this building together. We felt that our alumni and friends of the faculty would respond to our need much more because it was a building that was going to help students. You can't go and collect money easily from people when you say, I'm going to build a new robotics lab or an optics lab, and it's for Joe and 2 of his colleagues to do research. They are much more impressed, I think, alumni, when you talk about how we want to help our students get a better education. Because you educate the students well, they leave with good memories, they all become like you guys that come together and sort of are keen on looking at the future of the university. So we have had a very effective campaign to raise money for this building, led by George Myhall. And the lobby in the ground floor is going to be called the George Myhall Lobby. He's given a very generous donation to us. That 5th floor lobby, again, has been named after a donor. The main auditorium has been named after a donor. Every one of the design and teal meet rooms is a donor behind it. And in some cases, as you all know, we occasionally have graduations in Hong Kong. We have groups meeting in California, in Calgary, in different parts of the world. And so a number of alumni, for example, in Singapore and Malaysia, have worked together and cobbled together small contributions So one of our 2 rooms is going to be the Singapore Malaysia room. So we really want to show in this building how people have actually contributed to make it work. Okay? And this building, just so you all know, is going to cost us an order of $100 million. It doesn't come much cheaper than that these days. And the government of Ontario recently contributed $15 million to our project. And I think it's fair to say from an announcement last week, the Dean sort of indicated that we are approaching the $80 million in cash that we've got for this building now. So we've come a long way, not we, all of us, to make this thing a reality. That doesn't mean we're stopping looking. We'd love somebody to put their name on this building, but that's a big price tag, okay? But we've also, I showed you all these little tables that are going to be in the lecture hall. We have looked at every table there and decided that the 4-seaters and 6-seaters could have a donor's name on them. And I'll just share with you the table with 6 people. We are happy. Sonia may want to say a few words in a few minutes. That these would cost about $10,000, paid over a period of time, or the smaller tables would be $7,500. We also have some lovely benches. Think of the lobby as you come in. Round the periphery of this whole cube will be benches against the wall, both inside the building and outside the building. So students will sit on the outside of our building. It will create a student presence. All those little benches are also being identified as donor targets at about $7,000 for the outside ones and $7,500 for the inside benches. If any of you want information about that, all of you give generous to the university, we know and appreciate. And as Sonia alluded to earlier to me, people often give annual gifts, and then maybe you want to not convert, but just identify your annual gift as building towards a chair or a table or a bench. And, put your name on the bench, and that's a possibility. Okay. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm sure I've left out a lot of stuff you'd hoped I would have said. But I'm really looking forward to this thing opening. And thank you again for listening and for your attention. Thanks very much.
We have plenty of time, so at this point I will open the floor to questions.
I'm also just going to make a comment. I think
Yes,
the class of 523 has a room on the floor, if I'm not mistaken, on the alumni floor as well.
I think you're right.
Yeah, so the class of 523 there's some contributions from, pardon me? I think so. Anyways, the class of 523 will also have presence in that room.
Questions? Don't be bashful. You're engineers.
Yeah.
Yes, Don.
Will there be any traditional old-fashioned lectures in this building? Or is this going to be kind of a lecture-free zone?
No, it's a good question. What we try to do in the design of the tea room tables and those design meet rooms, those tables all can be slipped around very quickly. So it's very convenient to convert one of the design meet rooms into a lecture room. They could take 72 students. We'll have the big lecture hall, but that's the typical lecture hall if a person wants to use it that way. But just appreciate when you've invested this amount of money in the big lecture hall, you want to use it because of the technology. But there will be occasions, I'm sure, that the lecture hall will be used in the traditional sense. But you think of, it may surprise many of you, I also learned that in recent years, the number of graduate students taking courses has increased tremendously. We have graduate classes now that exceed 60 students, 70 students. And so those classes also have got to be taught at night. And if there are, let's say, 30 students in a graduate class, the design meet rooms become very effective to help them, particularly if you want a workshop facility just across the corridor to demonstrate something. So yes, we do plan to use them.
Okay, back there. Good, we got lots of questions. Next.
You didn't mention anything about elevator capability.
Yes, we do. There are elevators in this building for sure.
For us seniors.
And food capabilities, so a group like this could meet there?
You raised an interesting one
idea.
about the elevators are there. The elevators are all stacked on one side. And the beauty of this building, even with signage, I should share with you that we're really keen on making the signage throughout this building work well. It mustn't look like an afterthought. So there's classical signage which will respect the donors, but there's also got to be good wayfinding in the building. Because the cube is fairly small, you come in the front door and you can see where the elevators are. And then once you're on the elevator shaft, there are 3 elevators in the building. You either go down or up. There's some staircases that get you as well, but we all prefer the elevators. I think that's about... the wayfinding, what I'm trying to say is because there are few occupants, if you look at let's say the 7th floor where Sonia is, the 6th floor where Sonia is, what we've got in there is Sonia's offices and the alumni and advancement offices. And they occupy almost half the floor. The other half will be 2 innovative centers. So you've really got 2 ports of call. You're either heading to Sonia or so there's not confusion. Once you go to the elevator, you get one arrow and it points you in the right direction. So that's quite convenient. But since you're all alumni, I want to emphasize that in this area right next to where Sonia is, there will be a small lounge that people like you can come in and sit down and chat, meet students who you might be working with. There would be a sort of meeting room, a boardroom, that Sonia and the alumni and the advancement office would use, but it's also available for meetings of T35, T53, you know what I mean, all those different groups. And little carols where somebody could just bring your laptop in and plug it in and do some work. There will be a little coffee station there, but your issue about food is an important one. We had thought at one time about having some food service in the building. And the trouble is you are immediately competing with food services all along college, and you don't want a drain on a budget. So at the end of the day, it's decided we are trying to put a small coffee station, a small maybe Second Cup or Starbucks, on the 2nd floor, much like they have in the lobby of Sydney Smith. Okay? But we don't plan a dining room because when you interview students who are no one wants to pay more than $7, $8, $10 for a lunch. And, if you go down to Sanford Fleming building, in the bottom there, that student cafeteria, that really breaks even. So you've got to worry about how do you make something work without putting your resources into that. So there's not an extensive food. Down on the lower student level, we will have something like 10 good vending machines that students can buy pop. They should be able to buy sandwiches. There'll be microwaves down there that you can buy some frozen goods out of a vending machine and put it in a microwave quickly. Because our view is the students will use that from 5 in the evening till 3 in the morning. Okay, and then it will be empty during the day. Okay. Yes?
Talking about elevators, having worked at Paralympics, what facilities did you have to put in for accessibility?
The building meets all U of T's accessibility codes. I think that's what you're asking generally, like even the parking going down, it's all
So there are
handicapped.
ramps to get
Oh
in.
yes, that's all looked after. And I should share with you, you'll appreciate that we have a very diverse student population these days, and there's been a lot of pressure to address prayer space for Muslim students. We do have a small prayer room in the Bain Center. The view that we discussed with the Muslim students and the religious groups on campus is that this building is not intended for any dedicated space for anyone at all. But all spaces can be booked when required, but it's got to be booked within reason. Where we did bend a little bit, and I don't mean it's bend, where we took a positive action, a a lot of students, when they do want to pray, they do need to rinse their feet and wash their feet. So what we've done in the accessible washrooms on the floors, we have created an interesting shower pad that students can actually sit on a little bench and rinse their feet if they want to. And students have found that to be a very positive feature. We're the first building at U of T that's got this sort of capability. So it's engineering leading the way there as well. And we think that's a very good balance, and certainly we've spoken to the groups and they are very positive about this. And I'll just share it with you.
Have you had to do the gender neutral washroom?
Well, you know, I'm doing building at Waterloo, and this whole gender thing has come up there too.
Well, no, I know Hard House has to deal with that, right?
You know, what our view is that these handicapped washrooms will serve as the gender neutral washrooms as well. And so they become, at Waterloo we're calling them family rooms. And so you can go into that, it doesn't matter, gender neutral, but it is an issue. And I think the day will come where all the washrooms will just be unisex, you know.
Be no different than Starbucks.
Yeah.
Don, did you have a question?
Yes, Don.
Yes, first of all, just for me, thank you very much for the space. I'll have a question afterwards. But I'm just wondering about one aspect of human nature
Yes.
that I haven't heard you refer to, but I'll bet you have.
Yes.
Human nature among a certain percentage of people here will love the idea of this optimum flexibility. We use this space, a group today, another group tonight, another group tomorrow, and I think that's wonderful. But there are some human beings, and some of us might be included, who love the idea of having a dedicated space. And I would suggest, without getting into detail, that every 10 years you have a massive clear out of what you plan now and start over again with the new flexibility which you may need by that time, so that the people who have informally dedicated this corner, this is our corner, this is the electrical engineering center here, this is where we meet every week or every month or whatever, the alumni group, and so challenge to you, sir.
Yeah. You're right on with your comments.
Challenge.
You're right on with your comments, and you know, to give you some indication, the Dean has been very committed that she does not want a whole series of offices built on the upper levels. She wants open concept, and seriously, if you look at Princeton and other schools, a lot of their space is being built totally flexible. That there's less offices, and as soon as you, and Sonia will bear me out, we've had this discussion even together, Sonia, that there'll be staff that work, and they may not be academics, but they will say, well, we need a space where you need privacy with the student. Well, you know, when you work in industry, you get a nice little cubicle, and we all do quite well in there with what we're doing. And you know, I hate saying the university is a fat cat city, but we've got to come back to earth and make sure we use our space well, because we've got a bill to pay at the end of the month, and funds are short. But you're right too. You know, on the best support I've had has been from students in the ENGSOC. Engineering Society have contributed $1 million to the basement for that arena. And there's got to be protocols on how it's used. So in that basement, we've actually spoken to the students, and we've got a student janitorial closet that they have told me, and we'll set up protocols that they will wash that floor down when it's dirty and keep it clean. And so yesterday I was talking to Milano, who's the president of Engineering Society, and I said to him, how about us putting in the terrazzo, and the first 3 floors will have terrazzo, which is very durable. We could embed in the terrazzo an ENGSOC logo in the center of a room like this, so you can look down from the top. And so I said, what is the logo? He said, school. SKULE, which is great. And it's
What
gonna,
else?
Well, it could be just the EngSoc logo, you see what I mean? Okay. But he said school would be a good, and he emailed me last night to say, yes, school is what he's spoken to the guys, and they think it's good. But this will be a logo that's about 6 feet wide, 6 feet long. It's a big logo in the middle of the room. So when you're on the ground floor, you can look down, because there'll be an opening between the first floor and the lower floor that you can look down through some stairs, and you'll be able to see school. So I said, you realize why I'm pushing this logo in the floor, because if it's messy, it's going to look shabby on school. So he got the message that he'll keep it clean, because it's an ad for school. And so there are ways that, and we'd like the protocol that the EngSoc should function and run the facility. If there are rooms to be assigned to projects, they must assign these rooms. And every once a year we'll check with them, or every 2 years, to make sure it's not being used for storage. You know what I mean. But thank you, Doc. You're right on.
Well, I think there was another question at this table. Was there a question back there? Don't be bashful. Oh, sorry, question, yes?
Were you required to have a green roof?
Yes, there was a lot of issues about the green roof. And, there are all sorts of green roofs. On the one side of the building, just over here, behind this building, there will be a small 2-story building that will house the lower entrance for parking into the building. And that little 2-story building will also house some of the mechanical services. Not all, but some. And that little roof, we hope to plant some grasses on there. Okay, that's the one small roof. The big roof on the top, while they wanted it green, there's not much you can put green here, but we've got a fair bit of mechanical plant up there, and we've built it so that students could be taken on tours into the roof and have railings that can go around the mechanical plant. We also put a number of solar panels up there, and we should collect about 2.3% of the energy of the building. And we do want, near the elevator shafts, we'll have data trying to show students how much energy is coming in from those solar panels, and some indication of temperature and lighting and energy usage in the building. But our roof is predominantly not the total green. It's got solar panels, but it's got the mechanical plant, and it's got this capability for showing off the facility to... I know mechanical engineering students always went on a tour of the physical plant on Russell Street to have a look, and this will be what they can do there. Yes, sir?
So will the building have a LEED certification?
No.
And why not?
Because it's... you can spend $350,000 on registering your building for LEED, and at the end of the day, you are playing games. And I'm all for LEED, but I'm not going to spend a lot of money. Now, our building will come very close to silver gold. But we might decide to certify it. We're not moving at the beginning to certify it, because it's just you need a lot of registration. And you're getting, there's a whole point count system. Our building will have more bicycle spaces in the bottom than any other building on campus. You'll be able to park bikes there. It's got all the features. It's high energy. It'll be the most energy efficient building on the campus at U of T. But we just haven't collectively bought the idea of going for gold. It just, there are some buildings in U of T that have got gold standard. The new physical plant facility on McCall is one. But you get different views. I think LEED was a good initiative for the architectural world to push.
One last question. No burning questions? Let me then just conclude with a few closing remarks. First of all, obviously, we want to join in thanking Ron for sharing with us the story for the new Center for Engineering Innovation and Entrepreneurship, otherwise known as CEIE for short. He shared with us the strategic planning that went into the development of the process, including these 10 innovative nerve centers, including one for sustainable energy As an example, what was interesting was he pointed out that these are not permanent tenants. They're, perhaps with the exception of Sonia and a few people that have permanent offices, the users of the building will come and go, so they will share the space. I suppose they'll have to earn the right to gain access to the space within the building. He shared with us the design and the layout of the building, the labs, the non-wet labs, the offices, including Sonia's office. It's going to be on the 6th floor, so don't forget about that. The student spaces and how the students will have their own say in how the space is used. The $1 million contribution. In my time, I couldn't believe as students that we could come up with $1 million, but believe it or not, they have come up with $1 million. What was particularly interesting was this truly unique interactive auditorium with the $3 million projection screen. For a $100 million building, $3 million is just for the projection screen, but it will be truly a unique projection screen. He concluded by sharing with us, sharing with you opportunities to donate, if not to name the building, if not to sponsor a floor, but to sponsor benches, to sponsor tables. And obviously, as Ron has pointed out, we as alumni have been very generous supporters of engineering, of school, I might say, and I would welcome I think they would welcome the opportunity for us to contribute, whether it's a bench or a table, and I think many of you hopefully are in a position to do so. My wife and I have sponsored table A7, first row in the auditorium, and that is my challenge to you. I am not looking for applause, but I'm setting out the challenge to you gentlemen and ladies in the auditorium that there are still opportunities to sponsor benches, tables, as the case might be. And I think Sonia now would like to give you the real commercial. But before we do, please join me in thanking Ron Venter.
Opportunity in the building as Ron has mentioned, the tables and benches are available for $7,500 or $10,000, and they can be paid off over a number of years, like 5 years. So a lot of you are already giving at that level and just making a commitment, and I think it's a wonderful way to make a tribute to either a loved one or a classmate or a class in general. And I know when I walk through the building, even when I walk through the Bain building and I see John and Margaret Bain, these are people like Bill Blundell, these are people that mean something to me. And if we go back even further, like the Haltane building, so one day, like this is a wonderful memory and a commemoration of the time well spent and the contributions of our alumni. So I had, Kristen had brochures that I was supposed to bring today, which I forgot on my desk. But certainly if you are interested in that, we'd be so pleased to talk to you about it. And so something for you to think about. And yes, my office is on the 6th floor. They've given me the biggest office right at the front door because they say I'm the chattiest person. And so I look forward to welcoming the alumni in the building, in the new building. So. And I just whispered to Jim Courtney, gosh, what are we going to scream? I see a popcorn night of some kind, like Blue Jays on the big screen or something. Alumni Blue Jay rally call, right? Yeah. Or if the Leafs. Yeah, well, I was going to say the Leafs.
I've now figured out the Leafs will win in 59 years. That's when the 108 years expires.
Oh. Anyways, thank you, everyone.
Just to wrap up, this is, as I said earlier on, the second meeting of the year. We meet, for those that have not been here for a while, we meet on the second Wednesday of each month from October through to May. Next month, Wednesday, December 9th, the speaker will be Mark Swelling, who's the president of Vector Polling, After last night, you've heard a lot about polling. He actually wrote a book, Polling for Dummies, but he's not coming to talk about polling for dummies. He's coming to talk about entrepreneurship for dummies.